Welcome to this how-to video on how to use the simple annual and monthly budget tracker. The tracker is for sale on Etsy, and the purpose of this video is to go through how to use the tracker and some of the great features that come with it. It's a really simple budget tracker. For each month there is a one-tab sheet which contains dashboards and your input areas, and there's also an annual total to show you how you're going on an annual basis for your actuals, amounts, and also against your plan. So when you open up your tracker, you'll see a number of sheets. So there's an instructions sheet which contains some basic instructions, how to contact us through the store, and also a link to this video, which is a more detailed instructional video on how to use the tracker. See an example month sheet. So this will have some sample transactions for 1 month, showing how the dashboards work at the top and the various categories below. You'll have an annual total sheet, which will be the total of all your months, and then you'll have individual sheets for each of the months. So let's just have a look at the example month sheet. Now up the top area here, you'll see your dashboard section. So this is an explanation of how you're tracking against your plan. So you'll have a cash flow dashboard up here, a table that shows your start balance, the various categories of income, bills, expenses, savings, and debt, and how your planned amount, so basically your budget or forecast, and how you went against that plan. So how much money you earned against your planned income, how much you spent on bills and expenses against your plan. There is a left to spend chart here, and this will show you your ending balance for that month, as well as how much you have spent for the month and how much you have left to spend. And the nice feature here, it also has a left to budget. So this is how much you have left to budget for that month and also how much you have budgeted. And if we pan across here, we have the plan versus actual chart, which shows for your income, bills, expenses, savings, and debt areas what your plan was and how you went against that plan. So for income, it's how much you earned against your plan. For your bills and expenses, it's how much you spent against your plan. And a bit further to the right here, we have a top 10 spending breakdown. So in chart and table format, it's your top 10 categories that you've spent on, so bills and expenses. So showing a really good breakdown of those 10 categories, and it might give you some great insights into how much you are spending and in which categories. And down below here, you have your various areas for income, savings, bills, expenses, and debt. And this is where you'll input your plans and also how you track against that budget. So for example, for income, you'll put your various income categories in. So your pay, bonus, overtime, etc. And then how much you're expecting to earn for that month for those particular categories, and then also how much you have actually earned. And for expenses, down below, we also have the expense tracker, which is where you'll keep a daily log of your expenses. So one little explanation here is that we have areas for bills and expenses. So just an explanation of that is that bills will be your fixed expenses. So these are the expenses that will come up every single month. So for example, it might be your streaming services, it will be rent, electricity, insurances like car insurance, etc. So that will be your fixed expenses, whereas the expense category will be your variable expenses. While these will still come up probably every month, they'll be variable. So they're not going to be the same amount every time. So it'll be things like your groceries, cafes, restaurants, etc. So they'll be your variable expenses. So we split those two categories out. Just a further explanation on the input areas. So you'll notice that within, for example, this income table here, you'll have white cells and colored cells. So the white cells denote input areas. So that's where you can actually go and input your categories or your planned or actual amounts. And then you'll also have colored cells. So the colored cells will be protected and they'll have formulas, for example, progress bars, total formulas. So those areas should not be overwritten. And then within each of the areas, it'll also give you, if you put your cell on any of these white cells, it'll give you a little pop-up box that will say what type of input is required in that cell. So for example, for categories, it'll be text. So it could be things like pay. for your planned and actual amounts, it needs to be a number and greater than 0. So this will make sure that all the formulas and all the entire spreadsheet works as expected, and also to give you a guide as to what you need to do there. And one great feature here is that it also won't allow input that is not suitable for that particular category. So for example, if you try and put text into the number area, which would kind of destroy all the formulas, it won't allow you. So let's just show you that now. So if I just try and put in a text into the planned amount here, it'll actually come up with a little pop-up box saying, please enter a number greater than 0. So then you can either retry or cancel. If we retry, then it'll ask for a number. So it'll only allow a number. So if we put 100 in there, that's what will come up. Now that we've given you a very quick overview of the spreadsheet, let's go through and show you how it actually works and how to input all the different categories. So the first thing to do is make a copy of the sheet. So you'll download this from Etsy, and then the first thing to do would be to make a copy. So just select File, Save As, and make a copy. This will make sure that you have a fresh copy, and you can use this, year on year. There's no need to buy an additional template each year. So then the next part is to go over to the annual total sheet and to put in your start balance. So your start balance will be what you are starting with at the start of this particular year. So in this case, I'm just going to put in a start balance of 250. And again, you'll notice the pop-up box saying, please enter a number for the start balance. It can be a positive or negative number, but this is what you are starting with. So in this case, I'm just going to put in 250 as my start balance. And you'll notice on the annual total sheet that all the other cells are colored, which means that they're all formulas. So this will all pick up from your monthly sheets. So then let's go to our January sheet. And with each month, it'll ask you to put in the year. So you'll notice up here, you'll see this is for January, and we're going to put in the year. So let's do this for 2024. So we're going to put in 2024 as the year. And again, it'll only allow a number input into this cell. And then it'll automatically come up with the start date. So being the 1st of January through to the 31st of January. And it'll now say January 2024 up here as the heading. And you'll notice that it's populated the start balance from that annual total. So if we're doing this from January to December, it'll automatically input that start balance being the first month of the year. And the next part is then to start inputting your various categories. So if we start with income, so what we'll do is we'll break down our income for January into our various categories and input those. And the first part then will also put in the plan. So how much you are expecting to earn from each of those particular categories. So let's go through and do that now. So we've put in our categories, and then the next part we'll put in how much we're expecting to earn from each of those categories for the month. And you'll notice down here that we have a total at the bottom of the income. So this will be your total plan for that particular month. And you'll also notice that this is now flowing through into the cash flow dashboard. So that income amount is flowing through into the cash flow dashboard as your planned amount. So the next part will be to put in your savings categories. So again, these are the various areas that you might be saving for. So in this example, we're just going to put in a number of savings categories that the particular person is saving for. And the next part will be to put in how much you're expecting to save for each of those categories for the month. And again, you'll notice a total at the bottom. So that's your total for your savings for that particular month, your total planned savings. And it's also flowing through into the cash flow dashboard, into the planned amount for savings. So the next area is your bills. So with the bills, we have categories again. So we can put in our bills categories. And again, these are your fixed expenses for the month. And with the bills, there's a nice feature that you can also put the due date for those particular bills. So this will help you to make sure that you don't miss paying the bills. So the due date is done through a drop down. So for this, it'll be all the days of the month. So you can just select one of the days of the month that particular bill is due. So with the due date, you don't have to use that. It's just a nice feature to help you indicate what day that particular bill is due. And then for the bills as well, we'll put in the planned amount. So this is how much you're expecting to pay for each of those bills for that particular month. So with the bills, again, if we scroll down here, we'll have a total for that plan, for your plan for the bills. And that's also now coming through into the cash flow dashboard. So the next area is the expenses. And again, the first part will be to put in your categories, and these will be your variable expenses for the month. So let's put in the categories here. And the next part will be to put in the planned amounts. So how much you're expecting to spend on all of those particular expense categories for the month. And again, you'll get a total at the bottom for your expenses and also flowing through now into the cash flow dashboard. And the next area is your debt. And with the debt as well, we've got the drop-down box for the due date. So we can put in what day of the month those payments on your credit cards or loans are due. Again, it's not compulsory to use this, but it just helps to show you when those particular payments are due. So again, selecting from the drop-down. And then your planned amounts. Again, how much are you expecting to pay off on each of those particular areas for the month. So a total at the bottom as well for your debt, and then also coming through into your cash flow dashboard. So this will show you your plan now for that particular month. So you've put in all your planned amounts. So this is how much you're expecting to earn and spend for that particular month. And it's very easy to change any amounts. If you see any amounts that are incorrect, you can change them. So for example, our bonus, we put 10, that should have been $100 for the month. So let's just go and put that in now. And now we can see our plan for the month coming through. So now that we've entered our plan, so this is our budget for that particular month, we can start adding in the actuals when they come through. So in reality, you do this, when you earn your pay, you would put that into the tracker. When particular bills are paid, you would put that into the tracker and your expenses, etc. For this demonstration, we'll just put them in one area at a time. So we'll put all the income areas in to start with, then savings, etc. So if we have a look at our income, we'll put in how much did we actually earn from these particular categories for the month. So if we have a look at our income, we can see we had a plan of $4,750. We've actually earned $4,615. So we were slightly less than our plan. And we can see on the right here, there's a progress bar for each category. So for pay one, we earned 100%, and you'll see then a percentage, so 100%, as well as the progress bar, so going all the way across that cell, showing that you've earned 100% of that particular plan. The next one, our second pay, we only earned 91%, so 1,600 of our plan of 1,750. So you'll see it'll say 91%, and the progress bar will not be quite all the way across. So this is a really handy indication of each of your particular categories, your progress, and the little tracking bar as well to show you how you went against your plan. So at the bottom, we've got the totals, and then this will also flow through into the cash flow dashboard, and you'll also see a variance. So in this case, the variance is this lighter color. It is a negative variance because we didn't earn quite as much of our income as we had hoped. So if we move down to the savings, we'll enter our savings. So how much should we actually save for that particular month? And same again as with the income, you'll have a total at the bottom, and you'll have the progress bar, so showing a percentage and the progress bar in that particular cell to see how you went against your plan for your savings. And also flowing through now into the cash flow dashboard. So again, plan of 400, we saved 360, so we have a negative variance of 40. So we didn't quite hit our savings target as well for the month. And if we have a look at our bills, so let's put in our bills. So with the bills also, we have the little checkbox here. So as well as the due date, we can check off the bills when they've been paid. So the checkbox, again, you don't have to use this similar to the due date, but it's just a handy indicator to show that you've paid each of those particular bills. So same as the other categories, you'll have a progress bar showing how much the percentage, and also a progress bar across that particular cell to show how much of your plan the actual amount of the bill was. So for example, if we look at our Netflix subscription, our progress was 100% because our actual $10 was the same as what we'd expected to spend. But for electricity, we spent $140 out of our plan of $150. So we were slightly less than what we'd expected to spend, which is good. So you'll see 93% coming through in that progress bar, and not the progress bar not showing all the way across. And we'll also have a total at the bottom. So we had a plan of 1,660. The actuals was 1,655. And our bills are now coming through as well into the cash flow dashboard, so showing we had a plan of 1660, an actual of 1655. So we were slight positive variance, so that darker color denoting a positive variance of $5. So we were $5 less than our plan for the month. And we'll go across to the debt. We'll do that one next. So again, we'll put those in as we pay them, but for this demonstration, we'll just put them all in at once. And with the debt as well, we have the little checkbox to show that you've paid that particular credit card or loan, so similar to the bills, so that help you show that you've actually paid that one for the month. So for the debt, we also have the progress bar showing the percentage, as well as the bar within the cell showing how much of your plan you've actually paid on that particular debt category, total at the bottom, and your debt now is also coming through into the cash flow dashboard. The next step is to enter your expenses actuals amounts. Now for the other categories, what we did was we entered them straight into the tables, so for bills, etc., because they're likely only to happen once a month. But with the expenses, so those variable expenses, they're likely to happen multiple times during the month. For example, groceries, you might do your groceries every single week. So what we've done is you put your plan into this expenses table up here, but then for the actual amounts for the expenses, there's the expense tracker a little bit lower down. So this is the expense tracker where you'll put in your expenses. And I'd highly recommend doing this on a daily basis. That way you keep right on top of your expenses and don't miss anything. So to do this, you can put in the date. So the date's in here, and this date will be a date that's between the start and the finish month for that particular month. So this was for January. So the start date is the 1st of January. The finish date is the 31st of January. So the date that goes into the expense tracker will need to be a date between the 1st of January and the 31st of January. And again, this is in the day, month, year format. So if we put the date in, for example, the 1st of January, then that just goes in there. Now with this as well, you've got the pop-up box saying that you need a date between the start date and the end date, and also for the format. Now, if you try and put in a date that's outside that range, or if you try and put something else into the date column, it won't accept that entry. So for example, if I try and put in 1st of February, it won't accept that, and will come up with a little pop-up box saying that it needs to be between the start and the end date. And the next part is the category. So these categories, this is a drop-down list. So again, you've got the little pop-up box saying, please select a category from the drop-down list. And these will be the categories that you put in your expense plan in the table above. So if we have a look up here in the expenses, these were the categories that we put in. So groceries, health food, cafes, restaurants, coffee, etc. So they're the categories that will be available on the expense tracker down below. If you need to add additional categories, you can just add them into the table up here. So what we can do is then select the categories from this drop-down box. So for example, if we did our grocery shopping, we would enter that in here. And then we put in the amount. And again, the amount needs to be an amount greater than 0. And again, you've got the pop-up box to help you with the input that's needed. So for example, we put in 200 for the weekly grocery shop. And then you can put in some notes if you want to. So a description about that transaction. So for example, we could put in weekly supermarket shop. And then what you would do every single day that you have transactions, expenses, you would fill them into this tracker. So for example, on the 2nd of January, if you went out and got yourself a nice little takeaway coffee, $5, you'd fill that in there. And basically you just go through and fill in the rest of the expenses, on a daily basis. So I'm just going to put in some sample transactions now to fill this in. Okay, we've now put in the expenses for the month. And if we scroll up to our expenses table up here, we can see all the actuals coming through. So for example, for groceries, we did a weekly grocery shop and our total, the groceries for the month was 675 compared to our plan of 70. So on this table as well, it shows you how much you've got left out of your budget. So in this case, it's $25 left of your budget for your groceries, and it'll also show you your progress. So again, the percentage and then the progress bar going across. So in this case, it's 96%. So you almost spent all of your budget. Whereas for some of the other things, for example, pet care, you were $25 over. So you spent $60 of your budget of $35, and that's 171% of your budget and showing a negative left. So you've gone over your budget for that one. So down the bottom, we have the total. So your total plan for the variable expenses was $1,845 and you spent $1,614. So you have $231 left and you spent 87% of your budget. Now we can also see this coming through in the cash flow dashboard. So we can see the expenses coming through, the plan, the actual, and then the darker color denoting a positive variance of $231, showing that you spent a bit less than your plan. So now that we've filled in all the expenses for the month, so it's a really good opportunity to review, use the dashboards to review your progress. And you can do this anytime during the month as well. But obviously at the end of the month is a great opportunity to do this as well. So you can see how you went against your plan. And up the top section here, we've got the dashboards that allow you to do that for the month. So to start with, you've got your cash flow dashboard. So it's showing you your start balance, so how much you started with. So in this case, it was $250. And then you've got your various categories. So your income, bills, expenses, savings and debt, showing your plan. So how much you plan to earn or spend on those particular areas, as well as your actual. So how much you actually earned for your income, and how much you saved and how much you actually spent on your bills and expenses and how much you paid off your debt. And this then with each of them, you've got the variance, so showing whether you did better than your plan or worse than your plan, and then also your ending balance. So that'll be now your new ending balance for the month. So that'll be the start balance for the next month. So showing that you started with $250 and you had a plan to end the month with $545. In reality, you did a little bit better, and your ending balance was $761. So if we pan across to the left to spend chart, you can see that in a chart format as well. So this will show you your ending balance of $761, and it'll show what you've got left to spend for the month, being the $761, and also how much you've spent. So how much you spent on your bills, expenses, savings, and debt. So that was $4,104. So showing that in a chart format. And this also has the left to budget. So if we click on the drop down, we can see the left to budget. So in this case, the ending for that and the left to budget was $545. So you can see that in the chart as well. You've got $545 left to budget, and that you've budgeted $4,455. So that was your bills, expenses, savings, and debt categories added up. So the next chart across is your plan versus actuals chart. So this shows your various categories. So your income, bills, expenses, savings, and debt. We can see in the two different colors your plan and your actual. So for example, for income, you had planned to earn $4,750 and you actually earned $4,615. So you're a little bit less than your plan. And so for expenses as well, we can see that for expenses, you spent a little bit less than your plan. So you can see that in a nice chart format for the various categories to show you how you went for your plan versus your actuals in each of those categories. And if we come across to the right, the last thing is the top 10 spending breakdown. So this shows you in both a chart and a table, your top 10 bills and expenses for that particular month. So showing you, where you're spending most of your money. So in this case, in this example, rent was $800. So that was your number one of your spending. So for bills and expenses, followed by groceries and then health insurance. And it also shows you your percentage of total spending in the table. So this will be the percentage of your bills and expenses for that particular month. So these top 10 might not necessarily add up to 100% because you're going to have more categories, but it will show you how much you're spending, for example, on rent. So rent was almost a quarter of your total spending for that particular month. So a really good representation of the major categories that you're spending your money on. So that should help you manage your money better as well. So we finished filling in all the transactions for January. So we've completed our first month. And then we can have a look at our annual total sheet. So let's just click on the annual total sheet. And if we have a look, so basically the annual total will just bring in all the totals from the individual months. So the format is essentially the same. So in terms of the dashboards at the top, cash flow, left to spend, left to budget, plan versus actuals charts, etc. It's all the same. The income categories, all the same. All it does is it's just bringing in all the transactions from the months and adding them up. So at the moment, the annual total will just be the same as the January month because we've just filled in 1 month. So you'll notice that all the cells in here are colored. So in the tables, for example, in the income table, so it's all just going to be calculated apart from that start balance, which you put in at the start of the year. So at the moment, it's just all the totals coming through from January. But as we start to fill in the months, you'll see these totals coming through. So it's a really good way of seeing how you're going on a full year basis to see what your full year budget is and how you are tracking on a full year basis, not just month by month. So let's fill in some transactions for February and then we can see how the annual total sheet is picking up both January and February. So let's click on the February sheet. So again, once we go into the February sheet, the first thing to do will be put the year in. So again, we're going to do this for 2024. So we'll put in 2024. You'll also notice now that the heading says February 2024. The start date is the first day of the February month of 2024 and the finish date, so it was a leap year in 2024, so 29th of February is the finish date for that particular month. And you'll also notice that your start balance, your planned is 545 and your actual is 761. So this is automatically picking up the balances, the ending balances from January. So if we just flick across to our January tab, you'll see that our ending balance for planned was 545. Our ending balance for actual was 761. And that has now become our new start balance. So as we fill in the transactions for February, you'll get a new ending balance. So we're starting with our ending position for January. So I'll just now go fill in some sample transactions for February, and then we can see how that's flowing through into the annual total. So we've now completed filling in the transactions for the February month. So again, you'll see all your monthly amounts coming through into your dashboards and into your various categories, so you can really do a good review of how you went for that particular month. And you'll also notice now that all of that is coming through into the annual total. So if we go to the annual total sheet, you'll see now that the annual total is now both January plus February coming through. So you can see, for example, for your income, the full amount for January and February coming through as your plan and the actual. So you can see now on a year-to-date basis how you are going for the full year. So really giving you a great opportunity to review how you're tracking on a full year basis as well. So basically what you'll continue to do is to fill in the months as you go, and then that'll also come through. So continue coming through in your annual total. So after you've done an entire year, you'll then have a full year picture of how you went in terms of your budget and how you went for against your budget for the full year. So the tracker is designed to be used for one full year at a time. But the great thing is you don't have to buy another one at the start of next year. You can just make another copy of this particular template and then start filling it in for the next year. So just a couple of additional tips for you. One thing would be, a really important tip is to try and fill in your expenses and income every single day. So to really stay on top of your finances, that way you're tracking everything, and to try and review it as regularly as possible to see how you are tracking against your plan. And that way you can see if you are spending more than what you'd planned, and whether you're able to save a bit more money in other areas. So really important tip there. With this tracker, it's designed to be used from January to December. That's how it's set up. So with each month, you'll see that, for example, in February, your starting balance was the ending balance for January. So this is automatically set up that way. And that'll flow through all the way through to December. So that's how it's set up out of the box. But you can also use it starting on any other month. So for example, if you wanted to do your budgeting from July to June, or if you purchase this in July and you want to start in July, absolutely no problem. The only thing you do is just make a couple of little tweaks. So let's say you wanted to start in July. So let's say here you wanted to start in July. So again, you'd fill in your year. So we could put in 2024. Again, it'll give you your start date and your finish date automatically, as well as the heading will now be July 2024. Now with the start balance, the formula in here is linked to June. But if you wanted to start in July, you just have to make one slight tweak here. So again, if we go to our annual sheet, we'll put in a start balance. So if we put in 250. So with July, what you would just need to do is link that one to the annual total. So being your start balance from your annual total. So to do that, you can either type the amounts in, or you can link this to the annual total sheet. So to do that, you would put in equals, go to the annual total, and equals that particular cell, and then hit enter. And then you do the same for the actual one. So you hit equals, annual total, and the actual one. So that will give you your start balance in July being the same as your annual total. So that's your start balance. Now then August will feed off the ending balance of July all the way through to December. The only other change you would need to make, so again, this is for July to June, is if we go into the January one, we just need to link that one to December. So let's go to the January sheet. Again, we would go to the start balance. We would equals, and this will be the December ending balance. And if we go to the actual amount, we would go equals December ending balance. And you'll notice that the start balance here is white. So it is, you can input into that cell as well. So it's not protected. So you can just type the amounts in as well. But that is just one tweak that you need to make if you do want to use this. If you do want to use this for from July to June, for example. But out of the box, it's set up to use from January to December. So that is a how-to guide of how to use the simple annual and monthly budget tracker. So again, it's a simple tracker, but it gives you some really good way of tracking your finances and some great insights. So I hope you liked the video, and if you have any questions, please hit us up either in the YouTube comments or contact us through the Etsy store, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Just wishing you all success with your financial journey, and I hope this tool helps you with your budgeting. Thanks. Bye.